Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. Tyson, how we doing today, man? You were telling me you're struggling through some stuff right now.
Just a little bit of pain, but we play through the pain, dude. It's playoff football, run the ball. Sun Tzu. That's what we're here to do. We're here to play physical, we're here to play smart, and we're here to play fast, Brad.
You know, everybody's banged up at this time, Tyson. It's next man up mentality, or else you're going to get your job taken. So you're going to play through those bumps.
Well, that's fair. Plus, I got a pretty good quarterback.
I appreciate that. So we got a lot to discuss today. We're going to do our divisional round preview, going through each game in depth. Stay tuned for later in the week where we're going to go through our bets for the weekend. We actually had a pretty good weekend in wild card. Tyson carried the team, so make sure to plug in for that one later in the week. So this is just going to be breaking down these games. We're going to give you angles. We're going to talk about matchups, things like that. So that's going to be a fun little deep dive. But before we get into that, Tyson, I mean, we could be having a Bill Belichick to the Atlanta Falcons deal soon. Like, I saw this come through and it was an interview, and I was like, interesting. And I saw a second interview, and I think both you and I were like, oh, this is like happening.
Well, the first one, it was just kind of like, yeah, of course they interviewed Bill Belichick. Like they were looking for a coach. He's looking for a new team. That just makes sense. And then you get the report that the second meeting is supposed to be on Saturday, and that it's not imminent that the deal is going to be reached. But we're operating under that assumption, dude. All I heard about this was, well, Bill can't develop talent. He's shown us over the last couple of years that he can't develop talent. Okay, when you draft a running back 8th overall, that guy's NFL ready. Kyle Pitts came into the league, had 1,000 yards. He was NFL ready off the jump. Drake London looks to me like when you throw him the football, he's NFL ready. That defense was electric this year. Who's better at cleaning up back sevens, right? And one thing, they have the 8th pick and they don't have a quarterback. Bill's not waiting out a rookie. So get Kirk Cousins, get Russell Wilson, get a point guard. It's the easiest division in the NFC. It might be the easiest division in the NFL. And on top of that, San Francisco is going to look way different over the next 2 years. Philadelphia just came flying back to earth. We don't know what to expect from Dallas, but you're not scared of them in the playoffs again. This is why the NFC is way more wide open than people are making it out to be. The Falcons were this close with a roster that was really good because at the beginning of the year, it was, well, the Falcons are young, and then it became apparent that they probably had the most talent in the NFC South, and that's why Arthur Smith lost his job. We can say, oh, it's because he did this, this, and this. It's because they didn't win games. They had the easiest schedule in the league. That should have been a 10-11 win football team, and if they get Bill Belichick in the building, that will turn into a 10-win football team with Desmond Ridder behind center. And so if they upgrade that position, we're talking about an NFC threat to make the Super Bowl, right? He couldn't get free agents to come to Foxborough. What happened when Tom went to Tampa Bay in warm weather? Did the entire NFL not want to come play with him? You don't think Bill Belichick carries that same, maybe not the same, but at least a level of, man, I want to go play with Bill before I'm done. Like, I didn't even think that was going to be a possibility, and I get to live in Atlanta?
Dome team, Arthur Blank pays. So, a couple different things there that you can think about. You live in the South. It's a good franchise in terms of the amenities, the facilities, and things like that. Like, Arthur Blank's a good owner. I think he's gotten a bad rap because it hasn't been successful there. But I think he's a good owner. He doesn't meddle. I think he gives people maybe a little bit too long of a leash, which for me, that's what I want out of an owner, to be completely honest. I'd rather him be on the side of the Ravens, the Steelers, compared to the Browns and the Jags, where they're like, oh, God, it didn't work in 1 year. Let's just fire everybody. So I think a couple things here in terms of Bill Belichick, because I think if it's been a disaster, the general manager, Bill Belichick. The coach, Bill Belichick's still been good. A little bit offensively challenged. I think we can point to that in New England. But like you said, this roster's ready-made on the offensive end. Terry Fontenot, the general manager, he survived the Arthur Smith thing. This guy's shown that he can select talent. Like, this is a loaded roster. Tyson, this defense, a few years ago, it was one of the worst in the NFL. We're coming in now. You're going to give this unit to Bill Belichick, who was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in the NFL in terms of EPA per play, negative 0.07 allowed. Let me just name off these in the ballpark for you. The Baltimore Ravens 0.13, a negative 0.13, Cowboys negative 0.08, the Browns negative 0.16, the Chiefs, who everybody says this is a great defense, negative 0.07. That's tied with the Atlanta Falcons. They have a negative expected points added per play, better than the 49ers at negative 0.06. Their success rate percentage is better than what the 49ers did. I just go through that to tell you that this is a ready-made defense, and you add Bill Belichick there. That's great. You bring in somebody offensively who can come in and elevate. You got to go get a quarterback. I don't think they're going to go into this with Desmond Ridder, but it's not like Bill's going to be sitting there like, oh man, I got to select some guys on offense too. I think they're just going to say, come in and coach. Because if that's what you're getting with Bill, and you let the front office guys, Fontenot, who's shown that he can select talent, come in and do that, this, like you said, Tyson, we could be looking at a Falcons team like, holy smokes, we look up and all of a sudden they're what, 8-3 to start the season.
Yeah, and that's probably where they should have been this year. That's why Arthur Smith is looking for a job. On that defensive side of the ball, too, like Troy Anderson was a second-round draft pick, and he missed the entire year. There are really good players that didn't get to play for this team, but, we only see them on red zone when Ritter's fumbling at the goal line and they're throwing interceptions to lose games. Basically, if you just clean those things up and you play fundamental disciplined football, the Bill Belichick staples on offense, or what were the Bill Belichick staples on offense, I guess it remains to be seen. That's a good football team. And if you elevate it just a little bit, like the top of the NFC is like the 49ers are far and away better than everybody else. At least during the regular season, that became apparent. Who knows how the playoffs are going to fold. If they get in that echelon and it's Bill Belichick versus a guys with history of shitting down their leg in Kyle Shanahan and Mike McCarthy, Nick Sirianni just backslid into the playoffs and got trounced, right? Now, like, you're worried about Sean McVay and the Rams? Like, as far as coaching matchups and guys that you're not afraid to lose games. This is a guy that's going to walk in and just kind of look around and be like, yo, I'm free. Because all we talk, the AFC East sucks. And then you go see Harbaugh. And then you go see Tomlin. And then you go see Zach Taylor. And then you go see Andy Reid. And then in the AFC, you don't have to deal with any of those guys.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think, the Falcons have interviewed 8 candidates, Jim Harbaugh, Mike Vrabel, and Bill Belichick were getting a second interview here. So we think this thing could move quickly. There's a potential that this gets done by Saturday. So that's Tyson and I's timeline there. So we'll see about that, but it looks like this is going to be a match. Tyson, I think this would be a home run. I know people are getting down on Bill Belichick. We're not ones here to doubt the guy, especially in a new situation with newfound life. So this will be something to monitor, and we'll continue to keep our eye out on that. But enough of that. It's playoff football time still. And I got to say, before we dive into Texans Ravens, we're going to go through every game in order here. The divisional round, and we did this a little bit in the wild card in the reaction, because I think every single year, Tyson, it's a reminder of what playoff football is about. Look at the games this week. Ravens is outdoors, 49ers is outdoors. It's in California, but it's no Cal, so there's going to be some weather you got to deal with. And the Bills, we saw the scenes in Buffalo. Lions is indoors. You're going to have to deal with stuff now as we're in mid-January. East Coast is getting battered. It's been a cold front that we didn't see through 17 weeks. Like we're going to have to see how teams are made here. I mean, it's a war of attrition. We joked that at the beginning of the show, but guys are playing through stuff. Like you have to at this point in time. So it's not just about who's the better team, who has the better players, who has the better coach, but who's healthy, who's able to play through pain, and who's able to execute knowing that as well. So I think that's a reminder I just want to throw out there before we started previewing stuff.
And who's on fire? How many times have we been through a playoff or NFL playoffs, and then the Giants back in the day, they're making the Super Bowl. When the Packers won their Super Bowl, they were a wild card team. Like, not saying that these guys are going to make the Super Bowl, but you don't need to write off the Texans or the Packers or somebody like that just got here and then looked the way that they looked last week. They looked the way they looked against other playoff teams. This is not beating up the Panthers to finish the season. This is, you just won the biggest game of your season against somebody else playing the biggest game of theirs.
Okay, let's jump into it. Texans at Ravens. It's the first game of the weekend. This is going to be a fun game. Everybody is loving what CJ Stroud and the Texans are doing right now, and with good reason. I mean, it was an impressive win at home to beat the Browns in that defense. Ravens have been off for a week, right? They earned that bye. There's concerns about Lamar Jackson with big spreads. There's concerns about what happens when the Ravens make it to the playoffs, because the Ravens were in the same situation against the Titans a few years ago. Lamar Jackson probably going to win MVP. They have a young upstart team coming in who can do a certain skill set, and the Ravens folded. I pushed back on that. That was a different offensive coordinator. That team wasn't as multiple. And I think we're seeing a different Lamar Jackson where he's taking his game to the next level. Like, that MVP season was awesome and it was fun. This is the best he's ever been. Like, he's throwing the football with accuracy and timing that he didn't do under the Greg Roman offense. So I think that's a little bit of a tired statement there, or a little bit overplayed statement. Outdoors in Baltimore, I'll put this out there since I said it before. Winds as high as 20 miles an hour, can get up to 40. So that's interesting, Tyson, I will say. But others will say, throughout the game, it's 15 to 27. So it's not ideal. Let's just put it that way. Anything 20 miles an hour above, you get a little nervous for a passing attack. I think that hurts the Texans more. So when I throw this game to you, then what are you keeping an eye on? What are you looking forward to in this matchup?
Oh, I want to see the Ravens defense against this Texans offense, and not for what the Texans did to the Browns and another outstanding defense in the NFL. But I want to see, the Ravens in the AFC North and against a lot of the teams that they played, they didn't have to deal with like a ton of motion and a ton of like eye candy stuff. And then they wouldn't play San Francisco and put foot in them. And it was like, is this just the perfect defense to play against this scheme? Because they might make CJ Stroud look like they might make him look like they made Brock Purdy look. And that's a concern. I don't think that CJ Stroud even has that game in it, at least at this point. He might be overzealous in making plays, but the beauty of this Houston Texans team, Brad, is they don't know what they don't know, and they've never been here before, and so they're looking at this with the same things that you just said in mind, like, oh, we're playing against a bunch of guys that have kind of a track record of losing in the playoff. Like, we're going into this, pretty, we're looking good. On the flip side, that Ravens offense against this Texans defense, is Houston going to be, are they even big enough up front to make this difference? Like, Derek Barnett had a resurgence, and Will Anderson, the defensive line, and all these guys have been playing really well, and the linebackers are flying around. Baltimore, like, you take away the run from Cleveland, and they're going to throw the ball. You take away the run from Baltimore, and they're just going to keep running the ball until you quit. And I don't know. Houston hasn't played somebody like that in a situation like this, so we don't know necessarily what D'Amico's going to have to counteract it. But you know what you're getting when you go play the Baltimore Ravens on offense. I know it's Todd Monken and it's new and everything. They're going to punch you in the face. And if Houston can survive that, they have a heck of a shot to win this game. Nobody else in the league has survived that punch.
In terms of defense, the Houston Texans are the 5th worst in expected points added per rush, negative 0.16. That is a bad recipe against this Ravens team. And I pointed out last week, I was shocked that the Browns didn't run the football more. And it didn't work early. I was completely baffled why they didn't continue to do that. And you saw what happened, dude. Like, they stopped doing it. And it didn't help that, the pass was working, and Stefanski, he's a pass first guy anyway. And then when they got down because of a couple mistakes, it was like, okay, well, we're not going to run the ball. I was shocked. I mean, we just saw the previous week what the Colts did to him. They ripped them up. Taylor went nuts. It looked like vintage Jonathan Taylor. In this game, like you said, they're not going to stop running the football. The Ravens are a run-first team. That offensive line is so much better going downhill. That's the scary thing. We consider that. And with the wins, Tyson, I'm sorry. Like, CJ Stroud's awesome. The Ravens are the 2nd best team in the league in terms of expected points added per pass. Now, they're a little bit banged up in the secondary. They're going to get helped out by these windy conditions. Like, it's just a fact. So I think it's a great story. If I had to pick right now, I mean, I'm not really going out on a limb here. They're huge favorites. I mean, I just don't. I know a lot of people, this is their darlings, the Texans. I don't see it. I think the Ravens advance here.
Are we doing the picks? Or is that we're into that section of this? Because I'm going with the Ravens as well. The one more pushback that I would give to the people that are saying, like, the Ravens don't cover these big numbers and they haven't done this in the past and blah, blah, blah. Lamar hasn't been nursing injuries the same way that he was all of those other playoff runs, right? And this is potentially, or at least probably, the most healthy version of Lamar Jackson that you're going to see in the playoffs. And point to me how many times he's lost a game in his NFL career when he's been playing like he's playing right now, right? Houston's been a really fun story. It's been awesome. This is a different league.
Packers at Niners. Tyson, this is just an interesting game, right? Like, Jordan Love has arrived. I mean, he's been the best quarterback and one top 5 quarterback in the NFL since like week 9 on, if not the best, based on some of the advanced numbers. I mean, it's been ridiculous just what they've been able to do. This young group has completely grown up, but the 49ers are laying in wait. They had a week off. They're getting healthy. This doesn't feel like the 49ers teams in the past, Tyson, where Shanahan gets choked in big spots. Like, this team feels like they got swagger. They're on a mission, and I think they just have the horses that even if Kyle Shanahan does get a little tight, they can just overcome that. Christian McCaffrey's there. It's different than what it was in the past. Brock Purdy's playing at a high level. It's different than when Jimmy G, when you're like, ooh, he could just make one mistake that turns the game. You're not really going to get that with Purdy. At least we haven't seen that, save for a couple games. It's a fun story with the Packers. Tyson, they got out there and they blitzed the heck out of the Cowboys. I mean, just dominated them. That defense in the second half got ripped apart, and that was the big concern coming in. And sure, yeah, the Packers, they got some twists, and Joe Barry, he's throwing different things at him. Yeah, that's on film, and Shanahan's watching that. He knows how to dissect it. I just think right here, this is again another fun story with the Packers. We kind of said, they could make some noise in the playoffs. I think they made their noise, and it's time for them to exit.
I think the messaging has to be the same for Matt LaFleur and that coaching staff as it was a week ago playing Dallas. Obviously, schemes and game plans and things like that will be a little different. But if you start fast against San Francisco, again, you have a heck of a lot better shot than if it's even when it's 7-0 and they're playing from ahead and that defense is allowed to play the way they want to play. Because it's always – and we don't know if Brock Purdy can come from behind. That defense doesn't look the same when they're playing from behind either, Brad, because they can't do the things that they might be the best in the NFL at, like flying downhill and all that. When they have to, when the game gets dictated to San Francisco, they're a much worse football team than when they do the dictating. This game is going to be like it's a mirror match. This is who we want to be. If you're Green Bay, this is the way we want to run our offense. This is the way we want our defense to be playing. San Francisco already is doing those things. This is going to be another test for Jordan Love. But am I crazy to think this might just be a showcase of quarterback freaking matters in the NFL? And if this kid keeps playing the way he's playing, then they're live, like LIVE, all caps.
Man. I think there's a chance, right? Like, I think the game script has to go perfectly for them to be live.
It's got to be perfect.
It's got to be perfect.
They might get blown out the water.
They could get smoked. Like, this defense, I mean, literally could just get crushed. That's my concern. If you're back in the Packers here, you think they have a chance, or so we're breaking this down. The 49ers have ways to attack this team. Last week, it was against Dallas. Okay, Michael Gallup showed up because CeeDee Lamb and Dak had a little bit of, I don't know, it was weird at the beginning, right? Like, the connection wasn't there that we've seen. The San Francisco, they got Debo, they got Brandon Ayuk, they got George Kittle, who's a better tight end than Ferguson, who shredded up this Packers defense. I'm sorry, Tony Pollard, I don't even think this is it's not controversial. I know he's just not even the same league as Christian McCaffrey. So you got different animals here on the offense. They can attack you in multiple ways. Kyle Shanahan's a better offensive coordinator, better play caller, better play designer than Mike McCarthy. This has, to me, blood written all over it. And I think the Niners steamroll here, Tyson. I'm picking them to go in advance.
Yeah, I got the 49ers here as well. It just seems like the Packers have to play their best game of the year, and the 49ers have to play like they did against the Browns and PJ Walker. And it's pretty unrealistic we're going to get both those things on the same weekend.
Bucs at Lions in a very interesting matchup here, because we're watching the Bucs and they could have just blown out the Eagles, right? Like, but they had mistakes, and that's the thing that can come back to haunt you in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, where okay, you're kicking field goal here instead of going and punching it into the red zone against a better team. Maybe that would have hurt them. I mean, it was 9-16 for a good portion of that game. We don't remember that. Like, any competent offense, it could have gone down, and we're talking about a different game. But the Eagles couldn't do that, and I think the defense from the Bucs have been improved, right? Like, they were blitzing. They did a lot of different looks that they threw at that Eagles offense, which has been good under Todd Bowles in the back half of the year. Like, that defense has gotten better. For the Lions, after the script wore off a little bit, the offense was quiet. And I thought Raheem Morris did a good job on the Rams side of the defensive coordinator to counter what a lot of the Lions wanted to do. But that concerns me a little bit when I'm going into this one, right? Like, what does that offense look like if Jared Goff gets flustered? If they're not able to run the football in the Bucs, do the Lions turn into a one-dimensional team? A lot of questions going into this one. How do you see this?
I don't think we answer those questions till the NFC title game, brother. Like, I don't know. What did you learn about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week? Because when I was watching that game, I don't know how many times we have to say this. The Eagles stunk. Like, they stunk going into that game, and they stunk in the game. I watched Tampa Bay do what they were supposed to do. I don't think that Tampa Bay is going to come out and throw for 350 yards. Rashad White's going to have to be amazing again. I think he's, had it's not like a career resurgence, but the jump from year one to now it's pretty remarkable. They're going to have to control the ball, eat clock, and play physical against a team that wants to control the ball and can eat clock. They don't necessarily do it all the time, but a team that wants to be physical. This everything that the Buccaneers struggle to deal with. Like, you can talk about, like, the safeties are good, and the back sevens. It's a good group. It's not Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. Like, it's a different kind of thing than, we're a couple weeks away from them barely beating the Carolina Panthers in a must-win football game, in a Panthers team that has, like, the baby trademarks of this Lions team, right? Like, they want to do the same things. The Lions are just way, way better at it, and I think they present different problems to Tampa Bay than Philadelphia did. Like, Philadelphia ran the ball 5 times in the first half. The Lions might run the ball 5 times in the first 5 plays.
Yeah, right. Like, their first possession for sure. I'll put it that way. Now, I think both these teams can attack the weaknesses of the other team. So what the Bucs can do to the Lions is we've seen they give up explosive on the back end. And I thought Collinsworth did a good job of explaining, this Lions defense was just so bad last year that they wanted to figure out one thing that they could be good at, and that's stopping the run. Well, with that comes some exposure for big plays on the back end. I think you're seeing that. And the Bucs can take advantage of that with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, some of the other weapons that they have now seen, like Trey Palmer and David Moore and all that. I think you're going to see some explosive plays. I do. So I think that with Baker not afraid to air it out, if he has time, that's the other thing here. If the Lions are able to get home, I think they can dominate. But if Baker has time to attack the secondary, this could be a shootout. It really could. Now, on the other end, Jared Goff, sure, he doesn't handle the blitz very well, but these guys are man beaters, man. Like, the Lions are built to beat man coverages. Josh Reynolds, good route runner, finds open spaces.
He's a
Amon-Ra
freaking
St.
serpent,
Brown.
man.
Dude, it's he, like, always is open, dude. It's crazy. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, really? You're gonna do one-on-one with him with cover 0? You're gonna get torched. And yeah, Laporta's got that big brace on. Jeez, man, with that brace on, he's still open. It's nuts.
Who noticed?
I think it's strength on strength, weakness on weakness. I think this is gonna be a fun one.
Well, I just think that the Lions are stronger in their strength and less weak in their weak. So I'm going with Detroit.
I'm going with Detroit as well. Let's go. Keep it rolling, Motown, baby. Come on, we need this for Detroit. Let's go.
We need to Eminem in the hoodie. Like, don't leave the hoodie down. If you're going to play lose yourself at a Lions playoff game, flip that thing up, man.
Let's close with Bills at Chiefs. I think it's fitting that this is
Chiefs at Bills.
Chiefs at Bills. Sorry, thank you, because that's a big thing here.
Yes.
I think I was just so used to saying Bills at Chiefs because that's what it's been, right? That it's
Forever.
been Josh Allen and Mahomes. Or Josh Allen and the Bills have to go into Kansas City and face Mahomes. Well, this is the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he has to go on the road and play a playoff game. I think that's an interesting angle here, and one that I'm not sure we're going to notice until we're in it, right? Like, we have no clue how to project that. Like, he's been good on the road in his career during the regular season, but playoffs are different. Couple good things for the Bills are getting healthy, or at least some of the guys we expected to be out will be back for this game. So that's a plus. I will say, I know we were talking about weather a little bit. Oh, yeah, by the way, that reporter asking how Todd Bowles can handle the cold in Detroit. Holy smokes.
He handled that like only Todd Bowles could.
Yeah, seriously. No snow is expected at the start time here on Sunday. So that's something to keep in mind. But winds can get up to around 20 miles an hour, just the gust, though. So around 10 gusts to 20. So that's interesting to me. Temperature feels like 14, can get as low as 5. Okay, cold. Sure, it's uncomfortable, but it's the wind really that we saw with Mahomes and that cold. Some of those throws were off. And I think, with Tua and the Dolphins weren't able to take advantage of that, the Bills can. And I think they're going to be able to do that in the run game. That's what I'm going to keep my eye on. The Dolphins weren't able to run the football. The Bills will be able to. They've developed that offensive line that can go downhill. James Cook's been a revelation for him. I'm keeping my eye on that.
Got to protect the football. got to protect the football. They've lost, for 42 straight years going into Kansas City in the playoffs by untimely turnovers or poor clock management or not taking advantage of certain situations in the game. It feels like the 13-second comeback by the Chiefs was like a lifetime ago. If the Bills can't beat this Chiefs team at home, look, the window's never closed with Josh Allen behind center, but this iteration of the Buffalo Bills, it might as well be. Because if the Chiefs prove to you, like, hey, we're better than you on neutral, we're better than you at home, we're better than you with our worst version of ourselves on the road, I think it's a lot of, you got to look in the mirror if you're Buffalo. I think, you talked about James Cook, and I think he's going to be good. I think it's going to be a lot of Josh Allen running the football, and I don't mean the 52-yard breakaway. That was so crazy. That was probably the coolest play of the weekend. I don't imagine that's going to happen, but I also don't think L'Jarius Sneed is going to jam somebody to Cancun again, right? Like this is you can put him on Stephon Diggs, and Stephon Diggs hasn't been exploding for 2 months, so I'm not penciling in even a 70-yard game for Diggs, but it's that time. We're knocking on the Gabe Davis door because we know what the tight ends can do, and so does Kansas City. You got to have a 2 on the outside.
If I asked you who the worst defense against the rush based on EPA is, what teams would pop into your mind?
Oh man, well, the way you phrased it makes me feel like it's one of these two, but I'm running through the list of like all the worst teams in the league. Is it the Chiefs or the Bills?
It's the Chiefs. Tied with the Carolina Panthers for .02 expected points added per rush. That's not a good recipe coming in this one.
It's pretty crazy too, because normally when people say that, then the next sentence is, well, they're ahead by so much all the time that the Chiefs aren't up a ton on people. Like, we're just going to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, and then we look up and it's 17-14. And I think this is the first time I've watched a Buffalo Bills team and thought they're comfortable winning that way.
Bills are 8-1 at home. The Chiefs are 4-4 on the road. If I'm looking at that, 4-4 on the road here. So it's been a struggle, and now we get to see it in the playoffs. I'm curious about this one. I mean, it feels like this has to be the moment for the Bills that you get your monkey off your back, right? Like, it's not just Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, but it's freaking Little Red versus Big Red, man. It's Sean McDermott versus his mentor Andy Reid. Like that's the case here. So it's going to be rocking. Buffalo's going to be going nuts. They're going to be juiced up, and I can just picture it just being a heartbreaker for them. I'm not going to lie to you. But with that being said, I think this is the Bills' time. I do. They're bought in. They have a belief right now. I think this is the best and most complete we've seen this offense look. It's not relying on Stephon Diggs. Tyson, when he's taken out of the game by L'Jarius Sneed, they can go elsewhere. Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid. If Gabe Davis is back, maybe that's a player who can step up and play. And then James Cook. It's the best that this offense has looked, or at least the most multiple this offense has looked. And on the flip side, this is the least multiple the Chiefs have looked. Yeah, Rashee Rice is awesome. He's going to have to try to play against Rasul Douglas. That's a vet. That's a guy who can cover. Travis Kelce looks like he is on the back half of his career for the first time in a long time. Now he could have a whole 17, brother. Yeah. And that's been the security blanket, right? Like, just Kelce will bail us out. What happens if he can't in this one? So that's it feels like maybe the tides turn a little bit here. I think the Bills win this game and get to the AFC Championship game.
The Bills are better. I think this is the most complete version of the Buffalo Bills. They have completely they rallied around their head coach when everybody was calling for his job, and the whatever speeches he was making were going viral on the media and all this stuff. And all they did was go from 6-6 and looking like they were going to miss the playoffs to the number 2 seed. And this team it feels like it's got to keep rolling the way they're going. But Brad, there's this thing about legacy, right? And there's this thing about the greats, and he's never done it. He's never won on the road because he hasn't had to go on the road. And I think that Patrick Mahomes walks into Buffalo, rips the heart out one more time.
Oh,
I'm going with the Chiefs.
Oh man, there we go. Okay, so Tyson and I we almost went all favorites. I went all favorites. I may be the biggest idiot that we can have on this show because it's going to be all 4 underdogs, right? That's just how playoff football works. But
it's a tight race for the biggest idiot.
I got a 50% chance of being the biggest idiot on the show. We don't have a producer, so All right. Well, that's going to be our divisional round preview. I think this is going to be a fun game or a fun weekend. Like it should be just completely awesome. I think we're going to see some fun stuff. I don't expect there to be as many blowouts. I know the spreads are big, and I may be picking some of them. Stay tuned for our pick show later in the week. But that being said, I think we're going to see some back and forth. We're going to see some excitement, and this should be playoff football.
We just need every team to finish games because all of the games over wild card weekend were very good and close at halftime, except for the Packers Cowboys, and then they finished 41-17 or whatever. So just keep the games tight, please. I'm trying to chill. It's 4 degrees outside my house with a foot of snow. I don't want to go outside.
Not ideal. Not ideal. So, Tyson, we're going to be doing the pick show later, but if we have anything in the meantime, where can they find these plays?
You know by now, it's in the Chalkboard app. It's in the App Store, Google Play, wherever you download your apps. The group name is ISWIS presents the Roundtable Bets. Type that in. We'll let you right in. It's free. We're playing this stuff this weekend, and there will be a ton of plays in there on all sports. But also, there won't be the plays that we're about to put out in our show. The betting preview show that comes out later this week. So make sure to tune into that. And if you liked what we said, hop right into that chalkboard because there will be plenty more for you.
Also, and pardon the interruption. Tony Reali does the errors and omissions thing. I was backwards on the Texans here. So they actually have one of the better rush defenses in terms of EPA per play. Now, we haven't really seen that in a couple of games here. So did want to point that out. I think that's one of those stats where sometimes the eyes can be different than what the stats say, but just want to point that out so people aren't coming at me like I did read that wrong. So errors and omissions, shout out PTI, shout out Wilbon and all them. So like, subscribe, and share the show. In the meantime, smash that like button on the way out if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening in podcast form and you haven't already, please rate and review. A 5-star would be great. Send a comment in if there's anything that you want us to improve on, or if you have a question, any of that good stuff, go ahead and send that in. It'd be much appreciated. It helps us become more discoverable. Stay connected with us on our socials as well. X, Instagram, TikTok. It's all the same handle at ISWIS_pod. Been teasing it. We're going to be back later in the week to give you bets for this weekend. If you're trying to make a little cash, hopefully we can keep the momentum going. We'll talk to you all then, guys. Peace.